Okay, everyone, things are good, but can they get even better? Yes, today we're looking ahead to Celtic versus RB Leipzig. Packed show. Asim is here again. We're going to chat more about that win over Aberdeen because why not? We're going to go through some of your comments on the match and then we're going to turn attention to Leipzig and we'll be speaking to a Leipzig fan as well as we like to do. So settle down, everyone. It's going to be a packed show. A fun Saturday evening, Asim. Enjoy yourself, did you?
It was remarkable. It was honestly everything we could have hoped for and more. To be fair, I don't think any of us we spoke about it during the week. We thought it was going to be a tight game. I think most Celtic fans thought it'd be a tight game. But for us to put on a performance like that, the atmosphere was incredible. It was a brilliant. Honestly, I'm still kind of in shock at just how good we were, especially in that second half. So yeah, I've been just injecting all the kind of content afterwards. Watched the game back last night as well. So yeah, all in all, pretty incredible performance, wasn't it?
It's fabulous. I loved it. I thought the team, as I said yesterday, the team really meant business and completely dominated Aberdeen. I think we even mentioned that. They didn't just want to beat Aberdeen, they wanted to really put a marker down and just underline the fact that we're the best team in Scotland. What kind of content have you been going through then? What have the main takeaways been from certain people?
Well, I watched back the kind of Premier Sports stuff, and I thought it was fascinating listening to Rogers after the game because it kind of mirrored. Obviously, I was at the stadium, and you seen him when he's fell down and and all the kind of the comedy surrounding that. But I think the kind of bigger take home for me in that even incident was just how animated and invested he seemed in the game, which is so unlike him. And at that point, look, we're 3-0 up, and it's just about to be half time and I think it was a slack pass from Dyson where there was a kind of miscommunication with him and Vi, and the ball trickled out of play. It was a nothing moment really. And there was a minute before that as well where he kind of dummied to kick it and he didn't. But again, I think it borrowed out of kind of frustration at us maybe not moving the ball, quick enough in his liking. And I think at that point you were just wondering what was really getting to him. And then he kind of talked about it at the end of the match, and I thought that was really fascinating. He's just demanding perfection right now. He could tell how much that game meant to him, and we spoke about it. It was almost as if it was a statement. And Rodgers has been like this since his first tenure. Any real big games, any real time where people are not questioning Celtic, because I don't think that was the case, but it was more about all the Aberdeen hype and the credit they've been getting on the back of the two each game a couple of weeks ago, and we spoke about that the other night about that how that irked him, and it just felt like he really wanted to not just win, but put out a statement win, and I think that's what I took away from that yesterday.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree completely. Some interesting comments from Rogers after the game as well on the old team leaks. And once again, the team was right. We could have told them that though on Thursday or whenever we recorded because we got it bang on, didn't we? But yeah, at least the second straight game that the team has been leaked. And it's fair to say Brendan Rodgers not too happy about this. Quoted as saying, "It's not ideal and it's not nice when it gets out there. It has happened the other way to me as a manager, learning the opposition team early, and I can tell you it definitely helped me. Maybe it feels good for someone's ego to put it out, but whoever is putting it out, if it's someone from Celtic, then you're not a Celtic supporter. We will do everything we can to find out who it is." It's kind of like spy type stuff. Like, is he going to have like dummy teams he sends out to different people
Aye, well, there was talk of
catches
that a
people
couple of
out?
years ago, wasn't it? I think there was chat about that maybe under Lennon, where it was almost like that was their way to try and find out by by sending out dummy teams. But no, I thought it was a good question. I think it might have been Tony from the Celtic Way who
Okay.
asked it. Because I watched the press conference back this morning, the aftermatch one, and I thought it was his answer was really interesting as well because that's exactly it. Look, we all as fans, when we hear about a team early on, we're like, oh, that's interesting, and we can start, preparing in our minds for the game. But 100% as a manager, what you said is bang on. If you already know what the other team's planning to do the day before, the night before, it 100% gives you an advantage in terms of what you can try and prepare for. But he did counter that, which was also valid. He goes, you can know the team all you want, but coming up against a Celtic in that form, there's not much you can do about it. You mentioned it's been a couple of games in a row. I think it's even before that. I'm sure the Motherwell one was leaked.
Okay.
I'm sure there was chat about Ida starting in Atalanta before that came out. So yeah, I think it's been 4 or 5 games now, and I'm glad it's been addressed in terms of he's aware of it, obviously. But let's just hope it is something that can get ironed out and sorted. To be fair,
because it's quite a kind of serious thing, isn't it? I mean, you don't want the team that you've been planning to select to become public knowledge ahead of the game. And as you say, Rodgers explained, and it's quite obvious, but he explained that he has actually been positively affected by this in previous jobs when he's found out the team. So it's going to be interesting to see if it stops. I just wanted to bring that up because we've had a few comments from different people saying that it's obviously not ideal that it's happening. So right, few comments. Very last minute today, Asim, so I'm doing this from my phone, so we might have some rogue comments making it on today. Right, Jimmy Johnson, that was a great performance. Aberdeen were not given a chance. Aberdeen tried some dirty tackling, but Celtic kept the pressing and quick passing. Brendan said in the interview he got annoyed at Celtic players taking too many touches instead of one touch and pass. He kicked the ball away in frustration at that. He laughed it off. Now we need to get a result versus Leipzig and carry this form through the next lot of league games. Don't drop points to give Aberdeen a lead. They aren't going to give it up. So that was the chat from Rodgers. He wanted things done quicker, and that's why he was getting frustrated.
Yeah, and look, the first half, I thought we were in control. I thought it was similar to the Celtic Park game in the first 10-15 minutes. Both teams were kind of just sussing each other out, but I think we quickly gained control. I never felt in any danger throughout that game. Even I know we didn't score until maybe 28 minutes or something like that it was, but I always felt we were in control. I felt that we just seemed up for it. Aberdeen just seemed like they were putting in heavy challenges, but never really threatened us. And as soon as we got that first goal, I think from that minute onwards, that's as good as we played since the St Johnstone game. Now, obviously, we're playing against a higher opposition than St Johnstone yesterday. It's a team everyone's been talking about. So for us to put in that kind of performance from then on in, it was interesting at half time. Charlie Mulgrew mentioned it. He didn't think it was. I thought I'm in agreement. I've seen your kind of comments earlier with Stevie. I thought it was a bit not accurate from what I watched.
Listen, it happens. It genuinely happens. I've got a lot of sympathy. The amount of times I've been on one of these videos, and that's after the game, that's not even during it, but you say something and you just maybe just don't quite get what was actually happening. I really like Charlie Mulgrew. I think he's great, but Celtic, I didn't think it was an even game at all, and I didn't think Celtic were poor in the first half. I thought Celtic were really, really good throughout that game, and it was a pretty one-sided game.
Yeah, it wasn't even 100%. But the thing I can, in Charlie's defence, is the manager will probably back up that it wasn't our best performance in the first half. I thought we were good, but obviously, if the manager was getting frustrated at some things, you could tell that there was elements of our game that he thought needed improved. And I think it did. Tenfold in the second half. I thought as comfortable and as good as we were for the majority of the first half, I thought we upped it a notch in the second half. So the speed of play thing that Rodgers was alluding to, I felt that in the stadium. I felt we were just making Aberdeen move side to side. Nothing was more than 1 and 2 touches. It was just a complete dominance. It felt like Aberdeen had a man down in that second half. That's what I honestly felt like in the stadium. So obviously it was. Like I say, it just felt like the team, the management, everyone just wanted to put out a marker, and you struggled to find a poor performer yesterday. I think there's 3 or 4 vying for who was man of the match. Obviously, Dyson gets the headlines, and he was brilliant for his hat trick and his overall performance. But you've got Nicholas Kuhn, who had such a hand in so many goals. Rio Tati's best performance in a long time, in my opinion. That's the Rio Tati that we're all itching to see on a more regular basis. And when he plays like that, he's our nailed on midfield starter. Engels, I thought, put in a power of work. I think we're beginning to see his main attributes and strength, and I think that's his athleticism, the amount of running he was doing on and off the ball. Again, a few assists in the game. I could go through the whole team. Honestly, I thought everyone was bang on it.
Andy saying, thought the whole team was brilliant. Yeah, my only worry is the last time we scored 6, we had a German team in the Champions League and it didn't end well. I had that thought in my mind, I must say. St Johnstone 6-0, wasn't it? And then went to face Dortmund. So hopefully we get something different here. Richie Sharp, watched when I got home from work last night. What a result. Overall excellent. Aberdeen back in their place. Trusty really looking good defending and his passing is slick with CCV, Valle and Johnston. Scales and Taylor's game time will drop away and were good when they came on. I'm really liking Austin Trusty. I know he's still probably to get his huge test, and I guess Atalanta away was a big one and he passed that. But see some of those passes he was sweeping out to the left-hand side. I thought he looked good.
Me and you discussed it on the preview, and we nailed the lineup. We'll be getting accused of being the league soon over the team, but we both said it. We just felt that was going to be the team. We gave our reasons for it, and I think the manager alluded to it. Pace. Pace and him being on his, and again he was asked about Scales. I thought it was quite interesting. Charlie Mulgrew compared himself to Liam Scales when he was talking to the manager afterwards, which I can see. Charlie ended up having a really good kind of career with Celtic and grew into the role and was a pivotal figure in a lot of our kind of big European performances and stuff. So he was saying, "Oh, it's quite harsh and seeing Scales drop." But what was the kind of reasoning for it? And the manager spoke about it, the pace and how he felt, how he wanted the team to press higher up and cut out the threat. And then just they asked him about the goal that Sockler scored at Celtic Park, and was that part of his thinking? And the manager, I thought, was a very honest, refreshing answer. He said, "Look, he complimented Liam Scales as we've done. He's been brilliant. He's been probably our best defender this season." But all our defenders have different attributes, and it's about picking the right combination for the right games. And I think that was in the manager's thinking yesterday. And you're right, he looks so comfortable on the ball, playing. His passing ability really impresses me. He's getting better in terms of his combination play with the right back. So I was really impressed. Left back yesterday. I was really impressed overall. And then CCV, what's there left to say? I know people sometimes have been saying he's maybe not at the same levels as previous seasons due to injuries or whatever, but any big game, the guy just bosses it and strolls it. So look, I think they're all going to get game time. But for now, it won't surprise me if Trusty starts again for the same reasons in midweek. He's got that pace that we're going to be up against.
Alright everyone, just a short mention to grab your attention and say that every single video we put out on Celtic AM is now available as an audio-only podcast. That means that you can listen when you're out and about, on a run, on the train on the way to work, or even doing the washing. The Celtic AM podcast has been very popular so far. Here's a very vague graph of the general upwards trend in October. So head on to your chosen podcast app now. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Podbean, whatever you use. I use Spotify. See, Celtic AM, as easy as that.
Or if it's level.
Fabulous stuff. Check that out. If you can't be bothered doing that, just scroll down to the description and click one of the links and it'll automatically take you there. Do it now, legends, and enjoy Celtic AM in a whole new way. Okay, we might return to some more of your comments if we've got time at the end, but we're joined by our very special RB Leipzig expert and fan right now. We've got Justin Croser, host of the RBL Talk Podcast, and he's not in Leipzig though. Couldn't believe this when I found out he's actually in Adelaide, which I'd say is very close to me in Melbourne. It's actually not in terms of UK or European distances, but you're kind of quite close, Justin. How are you?
Very good. Thank you very much for having me, lads.
What's your story then? Because I'm hearing an Aussie accent. You've got the Leipzig gear on, the Leipzig scarves behind you. Tell us your story.
Did you want the long story or the short version?
Do the short one, then we'll get on to the actual football.
All right, no worries. So basically, in short, my family were from North and East Germany, from Saxony and from Holstein, so from Kiel and from Leipzig. So a majority of my family were from East Germany in Leipzig. We came over here to Australia. Growing up, I didn't have access to cable TV or anything like that. I watched football games when we could, and then I wanted to start getting more into my roots and things like that. As my great nana, my Oma, passed away, and I was the only one that really cared a fair bit about as in the younger generation, that cared as much as I did. And she used to tell me about going to football games and things like that. And her dementia wasn't the greatest, unfortunately, so she never got to tell me exactly what games that she went to, but she does remember the football games themselves. And I decided to pick RB Leipzig, as I was already a fan of the Red Bull Formula One team. And I actually did a Google search. This is what I get the kick about. And I did a Google search late 2009, early 2010. And, I started, doing a search, and I found, that RB Leipzig was a team. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll just support them. And, I did a little bit understand about 50-1 and all that type of thing. And I knew I was going to get a bit of stick for it. But for me, it was more so about, going, back to my roots where most of my family are from. And, picking a club from a foundation to me, I thought was, something that is very, very hard to do, especially in world football. And I understand, you don't have much history or anything like that as a foundation type club, but that's where you go along for the ride, and you just support 110%.
Especially supporting from down under. You're preaching to the choir with that. It's a challenge. We were messaging each other last night, Asim, about 11 p.m. here, and we were both getting up at 4 a.m. for our respective matches.
Yeah, 3:30 for me. I got up because I like to make sure on my sound that everything's all good for 30 minutes prior, and then I did the live stream of the Top Spiel, which is the top game in German. It's basically the around about 7 p.m. Slot on a Saturday night in Germany, which is the top game basically that they air on like all the channels. So worldwide, it will be on the ESPN network. We had Derek Ray on commentary. So that's basically that's the top time slot that you want to be on. And as a supporter from a very different area on the other side of the world, from the southern hemisphere, it's one of those things that you got to do. And I don't get much sleep, but hey, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Correct. How was the game yesterday then? Could Dortmund beat you 2-1?
Yeah, thanks for rubbing it in. Yeah, we won. Sorry, we lost. I'd like to win. No, we lost 2-1. It was disappointing. We didn't even have a first shot on goal until like the 27th minute when we actually did score. So that's just how bad it was, so to speak. We didn't even have a corner for the whole entire game as well. There's a couple of match facts I can randomly throw at you, which not good, so to speak, from an RB Leipzig point of view. But yeah, disappointing. But Sahin's Dortmund over there have not lost a game yet in Signal Iduna Park. So I knew that we were going to be up for it, but I thought quality would prevail.
You mentioned Derek Ray there, Justin. I had a kind of exchange with him earlier on, just because obviously we missed the game because we were watching the Celtic game at the same time, and he said it was an uncharacteristically flat performance from Leipzig, which is unusual to see. They've been on such good form. I believe that was the first defeat this season. What do you put that down to? Do you think there's maybe an eye on the Champions League fixture because that's a must win for Leipzig, or just one of those, like you say, against a Dortmund team who have 100% record at home?
Yeah, no, so like a little bit of that as well. Like we were definitely flat, or the team just didn't want it. I've mentioned that in my podcast episode as well. That hasn't dropped just yet, but that is like a question that I asked: is fatigue, or do they just not want to win it, so to speak? We were always second to the ball. Our passing was off; it was always wayward, and transitioning as well. Like Dortmund just, lack of better terminology, parked the bus. They just flooded back and made it sure that we had no space, and they wanted the game more. Absolutely, there's no question about that. And it just really seemed that we didn't want it. Like maybe that our half, baked chances or something. We'll get a draw by it. We haven't lost yet. Sahin's not doing great, and all these other things, but. Yeah, look, I'm hoping that we put in a better shift against you guys on Tuesday night, as if there's another performance like that, I'm going to be spewing, to probably put it nicely.
It's been a strange season so far, hasn't it? Because you're sitting second in Bundesliga, even though you lost to Dortmund, but 31st, which is a strange thing to say, but 31st out of 36 teams in the Champions League, 3 defeats from 3. To be fair, you have played Atletico Madrid, Juventus and Liverpool, And I was looking at your two fixtures after Celtic, and it's Inter Milan and Aston Villa, which is a hell of a... And I mean, Sporting Lisbon after that as well, is they're going really well. Obviously, just lost their manager, but given that those fixtures are to come and you've got no points, is this a game that Leipzig have to win, do you think?
Absolutely. If we don't win this one, then it's basically you can kiss the Champions League goodbye. I mean, you possibly can get to that 26th place, I do believe it is, or 24th place.
24th.
To get into that playoff round. We're going to be very looking at points and going, well, which ones are we going to be winning? The next two after playing Celtic is going to be probably more difficult than I would say the first two. We really should have won the game against Juventus at home, dropped down to 10 men, and we're letting a team beat us. I think the end scoreline was 3-2, and it was originally like we were up a goal at least. And to get beaten by 10 men at your home ground, it's demoralizing, so to speak. And it's a little bit of a learning curve as well because the team is quite young, but that's just one of the things that just shouldn't happen in world football.
I guess it makes them quite dangerous, Asim, the fact that they're coming, and it's going to be interesting if it's even late on because they're going to be flooding forward to try and win the game. Maybe they would do that regardless.
Yeah, I think in the old traditional format, it may have been different because if it's a tight game towards the end, both teams may think a point's a good result. We've spoke about it on the Celtic podcast that a draw is not a bad result at all for Celtic. Due to the start we've had and due to the fact that we've got kinder fixtures coming up, whereas with Leipzig, I know they've got 0 points, but you do look at the fixtures, they've been difficult away to Atletico Madrid, home to Liverpool and home to Juve, and I think the Juventus one in particular is probably the frustration because I did watch some of the game against Liverpool and I thought Leipzig were unlucky not to go ahead in that game, and then it can be a completely different game. But Leipzig's a team that Celtic know pretty well. We played them a couple of years ago and unfortunately lost home and away. A very different team though, that had Szoboszlai and Kunku, some different attacking threats. How does this Leipzig compare to that team of a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so the formation of football is still the same. You should be expecting 4-2-2, the Red Bull formation, as a lot of Bundesliga pundits put it. The difference basically is that we've got a little bit more pace now in our build-up, and we rely a little bit more on their counter-attack and exploiting space behind your last defender, more so than we did in previous seasons. Obviously, we've over the changing of years, we've gutted out our central defence. We've gutted out some core midfield players and creative spark. We have been lucky enough to be able to still stay up in that top range area, being able to get back into Champions League, and also getting similar players like for like, almost, I guess you could say as well. We're going to be without Xavi Simons, which is the biggest creative spark at the moment. It's really shown that without him, which is one of my biggest critical things of having him come back on loan, building a team around a loanee player, that is no guarantee to have him going forward. I mean, he's a fantastic player. I wouldn't say don't take him, but we're only thinking of the short-term picture. We're not looking at, going forward from years ahead. And I said that at the start, not knowing that Xavi Simons was actually going to come back. So you should expect, the same quality of, Red Bull, going to be very attacking, try to dominate possession. But if we give it up, that's fine. We'll try to catch you out on the break. We'll still press well. And I think that I'm hoping that the team, when they go travel over there to Glasgow, that they're going to just throw caution to the wind and, rather lose by any old score and, try to get the 3 points. And I mean, you said that you'd take a draw. I mean, I would take a draw as well, knowing that, a loss could basically just stop the lads from, trying to go that little bit further for the next, end games of the Champions League.
They're still an excellent team. I'm looking at their team here, and Benjamin Sesko is a hell of a player who's going to go right to the top, and Lois Openda has real pace, doesn't he? And I mean, Benjamin Henriks, I think, was in the Germany squad, wasn't he, and playing for Germany at the last Euros, and Willie Orban and Peter Galaxy seem like they've been there for years, and that's when they're missing some players. But even off the bench, guys like Yusuf Poulsen Kevin Campbell, again, guys that have been there for years. So I hope that it doesn't go unnoticed here just because they've got no points so far, that we're playing a top 10 European team pretty comfortably. I'd say, I mean, they're second in Bundesliga at the moment. I know Stevie reckons that they're even better than Borussia Dortmund, despite the result of the weekend. They're a top team.
I would say, we are better than, apologies for butting in, I would say we are better than Borussia Dortmund because we've got the away form that backs us up. I will give you a quick fun fact for the Champions League game coming up. Benjamin Sesko is the only goal scorer that we've had in the Champions League, scoring all 3 goals of RB Leipzig.
Okay. Yeah, he's a hell of a player. Talent, Asim, isn't he?
Yeah, that's something that we've struggled against. Justin, you'll obviously be aware that Celtic went into that game in Dortmund really confident, maybe naively hopeful that we could go there and pull out some kind of result or performance. And look, it hasn't happened, and hopefully we've proved that was maybe a freak result, because then we went to Atalanta since and managed to get a really credible result and performance there. I think the Leipzig one we're going to approach again, maybe similar to the Atalanta game, but the fact that we've got the home crowd and the home advantage will hopefully play in our favour. Has there been much, obviously, chat about the fact that we did get hammered in Dortmund? How strongly are Leipzig taking this threat of Celtic, or do they feel like it's a game they should win?
There's a little bit of chat that Dortmund, hammered you guys like 7-1 or something like that, but they're not taking it as a fact that it was any, that you guys are any pushover by any means. That, you got to look at it is that, Celtic Park being one of them as well, but like Signal Iduna Park is one of those venues in world football that it doesn't matter where, the home team sits. They're always a threat and always going to be able to, pull out a win or a draw or something like that. So to go over to, Glasgow to Celtic Park and think that, we're just going to easily come in there and, do like the same or win 3-1 or anything like that, that'd be very naive. And I really, if the team is going to be thinking that, then we're automatically set up to fail. So there's no talk that you guys are any pushovers or anything like that. It was more of a once-off that you guys just weren't playing on a good day, and basically the black and yellow wall over there just helped the team run right.
Yeah, a mixed record for Leipzig in Glasgow, because we did beat you guys in the Europa League back in 2018. I think I remember us being excellent that night. And the Champions League game at Celtic Park was very tight. It was goalless going into the last 10 minutes, wasn't it? And then Leipzig got, I think it was Werner and Forsberg from memory who got the goals. So there wasn't much in that game at all. I think it's going to be a very similar game on Tuesday night. I really don't think there's going to be much in it, and I could see it being a draw. That would probably be my prediction. Yeah,
I do hope that it's at least a draw. I do know that we don't have those star players anymore. We've got a lot of younger players coming in now. So I mean, Benjamin Sesko and Lewis Openda are no non-players in world football, so to speak. But when you look at Timo Werner's actual record goal scoring person for the club, even though yes, we're a young club, only 15 years old. Emil Forsberg was Mr. Def Pockel. He basically, even if he didn't do anything absolutely all the time, he's the one guy that will do that one thing that you need at that one time to get the result that you need. So we don't have him anymore, and we don't actually have any players like those winning players in the tight situations anymore. That's what this team is lacking a little bit as well. So if it's tight, it's down 5 minutes to go, 1-1. There's no real player that is going to be able to step up and snatch it besides maybe like a break or something from Openda or Sesko or something like that. There's really no player that you're going to go watch him and he's going to do something. It's basically going to either be a draw or you guys could even pinch it.
We've mentioned obviously Openda and Sesko, and they're the kind of main threats and the pace and attacking prowess that they possess. I don't know if it's still the same, but up until last night, you had the best defence in the league, only conceded 3 goals. So from a tactical point of view, what are the kind of weaknesses that Celtic might be able to exploit? You mentioned obviously maybe just that youthfulness of the team and maybe lack of experience at this stage. But other than that, tactically, what is there any kind of glaring weaknesses that's been identified by German teams?
wouldn't know if it's been identified by German teams, but just something that I've seen myself analysing all the games is that we're very weak at set pieces. That's both defending and also both taking the chances from set pieces. Excuse me. So that includes, if we're 20 yards out on a slight angle or something like that, there's no real player that can deliver a good cross into the box and get a header goal or something like that. Corners are just atrocious, both with delivery and also with setting up. We conceded a goal that last night that shouldn't have happened. Early hours of this morning for me, actually. That simply that the man marking should have been a lot better and tighter. So unless we pull up on things like that, which has happened throughout the whole season as well, which is an impressive feat when you look at the defensive record, which we are still best in the Bundesliga, only scoring 5 goals. I think we're 2 goals to the good, I think, of like Bayern Munich, who are in front of us. And every other team that has obviously scored. So there is some weaknesses in our game, and it's even because this season also our strikers haven't really developed and scored as much. So you look at Lewis Openda's numbers and Benjamin Sesko's. Like Sesko started end of last season, basically on fire, and Openda, was like I think 3rd in the top goal scorer of the Bundesliga. They haven't gone anywhere near those numbers. I mean, it's still early on, but they haven't really clicked into gear yet, so to speak. So if the attacking play starts coming more better, and also shore up a few things in defence in our set pieces, then we've got good chances of winning in Glasgow and also going further in the Bundesliga. But those things just seem to be there for a while, not just overnight fix.
So what do you think, Asim, from Justin's thoughts? You feel more confident, perhaps?
Yeah, I do. I think, look, we all know that they're flying high in Bundesliga, but to come off a poor performance where they seem flat, and that's, like I mentioned earlier, Derek Gray was saying the same. And if they're missing their most creative spark, we've seen when we're missing our most creative spark, there is a drop off. So, look, they're going to be a threat. We've not done well against German teams. I was actually thinking about this going back. I can't remember the last time we picked up a point. Lost twice to Leipzig last time, lost to Dortmund this
Leverkusen.
time. Leverkusen twice under Ange.
It would be beating Leipzig probably. I mean, Gladbach beat. Oh, we drew with Gladbach, didn't we?
Drew with Gladbach.
But the most recent would probably be the win over Leipzig in the Europa League that we spoke about.
Yeah. So we know what kind of team that they're going to be. They're going to be quick on the transition. They're going to counter press very well. But it seems like they can be got at as well. And they seem like a more inexperienced team than the previous Leipzig we faced a couple of years ago. And obviously we're going into it in great form. I know we went into Dortmund in great form, but it is the Celtic Park factor. We have been better in the Champions League in recent times at home. I know the notorious record for ages how we hadn't won, but you look at the last few games, we've now been much more impressive. So yeah, I think it could go either way. I wouldn't, I think we could win the game. I think they can win the game. And I think a draw, like we said, would suit us. I wouldn't be shocked if any of the outcomes happen, but I'm going into it pretty confident. And I think it's not a free hit, because I know we said that going into the Dortmund game, but again, we've put ourselves in such a good position that we know, regardless of the outcome in this game, we're still in a decent position to get the alluded 10 points that we spoke about.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's a little bit from Justin of talking his team down ever so slightly. We all like to do it from time to time. I think I don't want anyone watching this to have the impression, I know you won't, but I don't want anyone to have the impression that Leipzig aren't a good team. They're going to be a hell of a task for us. They're probably every bit as good as Atalanta, who we were talking up so much. I guess for me the big difference is, and it's a huge difference, it's at Celtic Park. And I think, as you say, over the last few matches at Celtic Park, performances have been really good. So I think if you bring that level of performance we had last season against Lazio or Atletico Madrid, Feyenoord, or even the performance against Slovan Bratislava, I think as long as we learn from the kind of daft things we did against like Lazio, for example, I think we can get a positive result. I think we can avoid defeat. And to be honest, I mean, I think a win would be incredible. The hype will be amazing if we win. But if you offer me a point right now, I think I'd take it, move us on to 5 points, and then and then look to find another 4 or 5 points from our final few matches. It's going to be a hell of a night though at Celtic Park. I mean, the stadium, given the way we played on Saturday, the stadium is going to be jumping.
Oh, the atmosphere is going to be brilliant because, after the Dortmund game, there was a bit of a malaise about the Champions League suddenly again, just because of the nature of the defeat. But then the total opposite after Atlanta, and then the performance at the weekend there, feels like we're just fully hyped up again and buzzing for it, and everyone just can't wait. And I think the noise, the atmosphere is going to be incredible. And again, we just want to put in a competitive performance. I'll be interested to see how we go about it tactically, because obviously Atalanta was away from home, backs to the wall, really resilient. But we touched on it on the after-match reaction. We could still be better going forward on the ball. And I think the home crowd, the home factor, I don't think we're going to sit off Leipzig. There'll be spells where we're going to have to deal with what they throw at us. But I still think we're going to be front foot. If we put in something similar to that Atletico Madrid performance last season at home, something along those lines, that kind of level of performance can get us the 3 points.
Can't wait for it, everyone. You're going to have to make the best of this video, because there's no Tuesday morning video for you, sadly, because I'm otherwise occupied. I will return Wednesday morning with John to look back on the game, but for now we'll head off. Asim, thank you so much for coming on and chatting a bit more, and enjoy yourself on Tuesday night. I'm sure it's going to be a hell of an evening. Big thanks to Justin, host of the RBL Talk Podcast, for coming on and chatting as well. So yeah, everyone, enjoy the build up to the game. It's a huge night at Celtic Park, and fingers crossed we can be just that bit closer to the knockout rounds come Wednesday morning. Speak to you then.